Hi everybody! Today we are going to learn more about honeybees. Shocking, right? I am so excited for our new hives to arrive this spring. So of course one of the things we're doing is getting them prepared for a nice snuggly home. So if you're not super familiar with honeybees, I wanted to give you a quick rundown of what is traditionally in a Langstroth hive. There are several different types of hives. Langstroth is the most common. I'm not going to go into a lot of details about the different hives or anything, but feel free to do a good Google search to learn a little bit about, say, the top bar hive or something like that and how the Langstroth hive came to be. So I am going to start from the bottom up. The very first thing we have in a hive is called the bottom board. This is the thing that everything else sits on. So here I will show you, we have a removable section and then it's screened right here. So the screen allows anything in the hive to fall out, and then this bottom board insert, we put this in and it will keep the things that fall through the bottom there. This can be really helpful for doing a mite count check. Varroa mites are a horrible evil creature, and they are really bad for honeybees. So they're smaller, they will fall down and fall through these little wires here, land on the bottom board, and it's white, so you'll be able to see them, and based on how many you're seeing at a time on this bottom board, you can get a pretty good feel for your mite count. There are additional things you do throughout the year to check for mites, but this is a nice eyeball you can do every single time you open your hive. The next component is called an entrance reducer. So it has two openings. You've got this long opening right here, and then you've got a smaller one right here. So this reduces the entrance. Crazy. And the reason you do that is to protect the hive or take care of different things throughout the year. So when you are first installing your hive, you have this smaller opening right here, and that's going to not allow as many bees in and out. It's also going to protect from a few more elements and things. As your hive is getting up and running, there aren't as many bees to protect it. So if any wasps or whatnot were trying to get in, your bees will have an easier time defending such a small entrance. Throughout the year, as your hive gets a lot busier and a lot stronger, and the nectar flow is really going, you're going to want to move to a wider entrance. That will allow more bees to get in and out more easily, bring in more nectar for you. I'm actually going to go like this. And since the colony is getting a lot stronger, they will have a much easier time preventing any bad guys like wasps, or if you have tons of honeybees, sometimes they rob each other's honey. It's kind of crazy, but that'll also that's one of the reasons you use the little one, but so they're more easily able to defend their hive. So right here along the bottom. I have it set so the smallest entrance is right there for us. The next thing you have is called a deep hive body. This is a very large box. It has little handholds on each side to be easily carried, and this is where your bees live. Inside we have 10 what we call frames. These are easily removable. We have ours started with a wax foundation. It already has the hexagonal shape of the honeycomb, so this makes it a lot easier for the bees to start building out their wax comb, and that's what they put in: the honey, the nectar, the pollen, the brood, which would be the babies and whatnot. They do everything here. You can get frames that do not have anything in here, and that is perfectly fine. A lot of people do that. The reason we use this is it helps the bees get up and running faster, and it also makes things a little bit more stable when we're picking them up. So this is really helpful when you're doing a hive inspection, because you've got your little bees in there, and all you do is you pick one of these bad boys up, and you're going to kind of tilt it, take a look, flip to the other side, and take a look. I'm going to have to go real into detail on that because I will definitely take you along for a hive inspection this year. So this is a deep hive body, as I mentioned. I think it's 9 5/8 tall, and this is where bees spend the majority of their time inside the hive. You will have up to 3 of these depending on how large your hive population gets, because they'll start filling it up with bees, honey, and the population is growing because they're making more babies, and you're going to get a second and then eventually a third. So when you are looking here, this is actually a pretty small hive compared to what you try and go for. In Minnesota, it's really, really good if you can get 3 deeps by the end of the summer, because bees are going to be more likely to survive over the winter if they have a higher population. So that's a little tip about Minnesota. Feel free to check out the U of M's extension information on their bee lab, because they can get into that even more for you. Something we will do is we are going to drill a hole about 1 inch. And what that does is it allows the bees to get in and out in a couple of other places, and it also helps with airflow and things like that within the hive. So we'll do that on every deep hive body as we go along throughout the year. And then in the winter, if we have multiple hive bodies, we will cork up all of them except 1. And if you check out the video I posted not long ago about prepping the bees for the winter, I do talk about that a little bit. So we have our hive body, and then we've got this nifty thing called a queen excluder. So this also has some ridges on it, but you can see it's a lot bigger than that bottom board we looked at. This is sized so that worker bees can get through it, but the queen cannot. So the purpose of this is when your brood boxes are so full that you want to start getting surplus honey and preparing honey for yourself, you don't want the queen getting in there, because if she gets even higher, she's just going to keep making babies. So this is a queen excluder. When you are ready to start putting honey aside, you're going to pop this on. We wouldn't do that until all 3 hive bodies were filled with brood, filled with honey. You don't want to harvest honey that is from the brood chambers, that's what you refer to these as often, because that's what the honeybees are going to need to eat over the winter. So you never start building on honey for yourself unless you know it's surplus and your bees are going to be good over the winter. So before we move on to what's called a honey super, we set down our queen excluder. The next thing we're going to do is put on that honey super. Looks kind of familiar, right? So this is exactly the same as our deep hive body, but it is not as deep. This is a medium honey super. You can use a deep hive body as a honey super. It is essentially the exact same in structure. It's got the 10 frames. You can take them out. It's got the wax framing here, everything good to go. The reason a lot of people use a medium super rather than a deep hive body is honey is really heavy. So having a smaller amount of honey to take out makes it a lot easier. You'll notice I'm calling that a hive body and a super. Super is anything that is additional for you to start harvesting honey off of. So if I used a deep hive body, I could actually call that a super. But we are planning on, if we get to the point where we can harvest honey this first year with our new hives, which we do not expect, if we were to do that though, we would probably use a medium super, because that honey is heavy. So we have our bottom board, entrance reducer, deep hive body, queen excluder, and our medium honey super. The next thing is the first of 2 covers. The first thing we have is our inner cover, and this is a lot fairly thin, completely wood, and it's got this little hole right here. This allows the bees to get in and out if they need. This pops right on top. But we want to make sure our bees are protected from the elements with the ability to get in and out right here. Being thin, this is not going to protect them from rain, etc. So we have one final thing to pop on the top. Crazily, the thing that goes on top of the inner cover is the outer cover. Crazy. So this is a lot thicker wood, and it is covered with aluminum, which is going to really protect it from the elements. You'll also see, I don't know if you can see it real well, but this is actually bigger than the inner cover. Okay, you can't see them on the bottom, but I'm holding them even on the bottom, so you can see there's definitely a difference in the size. that is because the outer cover is actually called a telescoping outer cover. And this allows us to kind of change up some of the airflow that is in the hive. So I can put this right on top, and I can move it back and forth to decide kind of how I want the airflow going. So that is your general setup of a basic Langstroth hive. If you noticed, the queen reducer is painted tan on the outside and nothing else is painted. Something that's really important when you're getting a hive set up is you want to paint it with exterior outdoors paint. It is, you know, wood and whatnot, but over time the elements will definitely get to that. So you paint it with exterior paint. This is a brand new hive that we just purchased because we're expanding our apiary this year. I don't know if 3 hives counts as an apiary, but I'm going to call it that because it's cool. But this queen excluder is one that we already have and that we didn't end up needing because we didn't harvest a lot of honey. But anyway, so I am going to paint this up. Something that people do is they like to get all kinds of crazy with their colors. Sometimes they do fun different colors or even designs. And then of course you have your more utilitarian people that paint them just white, or some people really like the you know, color of the wood, so they'll put on an exterior varnish or something like that. I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. Up till now, we've had ours be either kind of a mellow green or a tan color, but like I said, might mix it up this year. It's nice to keep them different colors, so I can, when I'm making notes about what we're looking at, I can say green hive had 4 frames of brood, tan hive had 7 frames of brood, etc. It's just easier for tracking. But I hope you enjoyed learning about our hives. I am eager for our bees to arrive mid-April. I will definitely be filming a video of us installing them into the hive, and I'll film ones throughout the summer when we are doing inspections, and if we are lucky enough to harvest some honey our first year, I will definitely take you along on that journey as well. Thank you so much for coming along, and make sure you hit that little subscribe button down below so you keep up with this. Check out all of our other fun stuff in the link that I dropped down in the description, and we will see you next time up here at the Minnesota Homestead.